welcome back to an unexpected art lesson. This week we are going to continue talking about getting into drawing. So we started off with busting a collection of myths when it comes to drawing with great gusto and zeal. It's fun proving things wrong. And while we were doing that, we mentioned some modern artists that you can look to for reference and see examples of how their style has evolved. You can learn about their adventures with drawing. Now we just want to take some time to focus on those modern masters, these artists whose work are accessible and available, starting with Chris Sanders.
Chris Sanders is definitely one of my favorites to talk about because he is literally the art version of you do not have to be loud in order to be heard. But in his case, powerful, awesome art does not necessarily need to be that complex to prove his point. He achieves a lot of what he does through things such as very fluid line quality, where even admittedly at times when I do my pre-sketches, I do a lot more kind of bits and pieces of line work. This dude can rock a single line like nobody's business. Every line in his sketches is serving a purpose.
Which is a very special talent. That's something that comes with practice and focusing on practicing specifically that. I've watched friends do digital drawings. I've seen how many times you people redraw the exact same line over and over and over again, trying to get it just right. I don't know how you define just right, but I know with art, it's just you know it when you see it. It's all based on the vibes.
Either that or when I get too tired of hitting Control-Z and go, you know what? Close enough.
You can always fix it later.
That is one of the perks of digital art, but I should probably not focus on that at the moment. Although we will do a digital art show down the road.
I have no doubt that we absolutely will, but it's good to start with the basics. Drawing and getting good at doing art with just a pencil and a piece of paper and or napkin.
If some of our selection this week has proven anything, napkin art apparently is the best art to start.
I mean, how many stories trace it back to it started out with something someone jotted down on a napkin? Sometimes you get a really good idea, and if that's the only thing available, you gotta work with what you've got.
Exactly.
And if I'm remembering correctly, that's how we got Stitch.
Yes. He originally drew Stitch because he was in a meeting where he was bored out of his tree, which, you know what? That is the origin story of the winged lizard ferret, so can't really argue.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of his earlier drawings of Stitch, and them Stitch is green and a little horrifying looking. I do very much appreciate the difference between the Stitch and sketches that I'm seeing and the Stitch that we saw in the animated films.
He definitely got cuter and less nightmare fuel.
Yep.
One of the other big strengths of Chris Sanders' work as well is, you actually sort of touched on that, through silhouettes. Sanders' work has these fantastic silhouettes. And what those are is, if you take one of his pieces of art and you completely black it out, no details, no color, no expressions, nothing, you can look at anything he has done and you can already tell exactly what it is.
Yeah. Thinking back to Lilo and Stitch, because that is the biggest piece of his stuff that I know. The different shapes and designs for the different individuals, they're so unique and recognizable that it's almost like when you see someone you know, and you don't even have to see all of them, you can just like see the shadow of them moving or just like see part of their head. You don't need the whole thing to immediately recognize, oh, that's so and so. Oh, this just plain black silhouette, that's obviously Nani.
Exactly. He does just such a fantastic job of creating those figures where you can just look at it and you instantly know, oh, that's Stitch with a guitar. Or, as you said, Nani surfing, because even that, the portrayal of her surfing is just done so perfectly, even through silhouette, that you can tell exactly how the stance is, where the lead foot is. It's hard to deny that that is pure skill at its finest.
Yeah, and it's could even be to the point where even if you don't know the character name, you just see the silhouette or see a drawing of them from behind, and you're like, oh, that's someone from Lilo and Stitch, or any of the other things that he's worked on. I'm sure there are others, I just don't know any off the top of my head.
Sanders' work for movies or like animated stuff, he is known for his Rescue Sirens series, as well as I believe it is the Wild Robot. He's also well known in like some of the tiki art communities just for some of his Surfer Girl pieces of art as well.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize he does have a vibe that he goes for. He's got the nautical surfer bro vibe, and I like it.
Oh yeah. I've actually sat in on a couple of talks with him. He is one of the epics who you hear him go dude about as much as I do.
I kind of love that, because it's a good reminder of just how human people are, even when they're someone that you might do a little fangirl hero worshiping. They're just people.
They're just people, and they are often just as excited to talk about their stuff as you are to meet them to talk about their stuff.
For real, though. This was years ago. I went to this event in Dallas. It was Industry Giants. It's like a 2-day conference focusing on art and animation, because there's like a lot of stuff in my area. And I remember like the first year I went, the talks were astounding and a little bit over my head, but afterwards I reached out to one of the people who did a presentation and said, hey, because I had a podcast at the time that is called An Incomplete Guide to World Domination, where I would interview creative people about the creative stuff that they make. And I asked, hey, would you be interested in maybe coming to talk about it? And that's how I got to do a pretty decently long interview with the guy who was the storyboard artist for The Walking Dead.
Cool.
I also got to meet one of the designers from Naughty Dog who worked on Uncharted, and I can't remember his name, but it's the guy who pitched The Great Mouse Detective, which ended up being the movie that saved Disney.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He did a presentation. It was so cool.
Very. I always did wonder about The Walking Dead, though. It seems to be a lot more fun to watch when you're rooting for the zombies.
I mean, that's kind of what makes it fun in any zombie film. There's also the fact that sometimes what gets people into zombie fiction is the action of watching the zombies and watching people figure out how to survive, but after a certain point, humanity needs to start rebuilding itself, and sometimes they don't quite get to that point, because it's at some point things should get better, either that or everyone's going to end up dead.
Oh yeah.
But also sometimes it's cool seeing really cool looking zombies killing people in interesting ways. Let's get back on track before we fall down this rabbit hole even further.
Making a note, zombie episode. There's no idea of how I'm going to do that one.
Maybe I can talk him into coming on our show.
Ooh.
That could be fun.
I agree. But I totally agree with you as well that we should flip back to what we were focusing on, and that is Chris Saunders, which the dude does not do zombies. He does dragons, aliens, and surfers. So one of the things that he definitely really does a fantastic job And one of the things I feel definitely helps his work stand out is emotion through simplicity. Like, if you look at his characters, they have very little detail when it comes to actually their facial expressions and kind of what they're doing. And yet, at the same time, you see so much portrayed through that, such as Lilo and Nani, for example. You can see, like, Lilo, when she is going on about something, she gets just these massive, like, expressions where it's just her eyes and her mouth, and she's going on about stuff. Nani has that adorable older sister vibe where she's encouraging, but at the same time trying to completely keep following. And then, of course, there's Stitch, who... 2 eyes, giant nose, and an even bigger mouth, but he does not communicate very much in the movie, and yet you can tell just through how he acts and how he even like makes his gestures that you can get a feeling you know what's going on. This is also reflected through How to Train Your Dragon's Toothless. Anyone who has had a cat knows exactly what Toothless is doing at any given point, and that's just with 2 eyes and a mouth.
I don't know if I realized that he worked on How to Train Your Dragon, but I think a lot of you say emotion through simplicity, and it's not always using like the facial expression. You get a bit more of facial expression, and there's a different approach to the design of characters in the How to Train Your Dragons, but it's body language.
Mm-hmm.
The way he uses body language in these characters, because in Lilo and Stitch, it's a lot more rounded and softer versus How to Train Your Dragon, where it tends to be a little bit more sharp at certain points, at least with the skinnier characters, where they're all kind of like knees and elbows and all lanky. It's a very intentional difference in the artistic design, because it's a very different tone from one to another, but it does a great job with character design. Now I'm just remembering that part in the third How to Train Your Dragon where Toothless is trying to basically flirt with the Light Fury. And he's just doing all these weird like bird dances, and she's just like, what? Oh, that's so funny.
I feel at least some of that was probably Chris Sanders trying to base how he met his partner at the time, and probably just thinking, wow, I could have gone a lot worse.
Yeah, also I'm almost 100% sure that a lot of those were based off of birds mating rituals, but that for a dragon is so funny, and the look on her face communicated so much.
That is a perfect example of that too. And I just felt a little bad for Toothless at the time, because I was just going, oh buddy, I've been there.
He eventually figures it out, and the ending of the movie made me want to cry like a little baby, but in a way that I was weirdly okay with, because it's sad, but it's like a cathartic kind of sad. Like, this isn't the ending I wanted, but it's okay. That's one of the things I like when Disney has those endings, where you don't get the dream that you started with, but it's still okay. The way it ends, it's what you needed.
Exactly. I feel that the end of How to Train Your Dragon definitely kind of hits those perfect notes.
Jacob did what he had to do. The world wasn't ready for that. He had to make a choice, and it's like the thing of, if you love something, let it go. Now I'm making myself sad.
Then let's hop to the next topic.
Yeah, what can we learn from Chris Sanders' style and approach to drawing?
Well, the first thing, of course, is Chris Sanders, much like the others we talked about here, constantly sketching. Always try to have something with you that you can sketch your ideas. If you get a great idea, if you see something interesting out in the world, draw it. Even if it's just a quick 5-second sketch or a gesture just to capture the line work, that is a fantastic way to start. And then, of course, some of the ideas that you can carry from Sanders is don't overthink. Don't feel you need to rock like these epic characters with fantastic armor or whatnot because you'll drive yourself batty. Start with basic shapes. Stitch, you can break down in circles and squares. The idea is you focus more on gesture and emotion over detail. How can you make these lines tell more of that story with less? So, if you're working with just gesture drawings, don't think about all the details trying to draw the hair or the particular nature of how the body is put together, but the energy you can convey by doing the gesture itself.
Something to help you think through that is just whenever you are watching something, whether it's animated or not, you'll see sometimes like people will make a gesture and it'll feel like something subtle, but it still speaks volumes. The way a person goes for a handshake, the way they greet someone coming into a room, or they don't greet someone. Just those little gestures and emotions can say a lot. And you can use that in your art. So it doesn't have to be this grand, big thing, but you can communicate that maybe stick figure A is in love with stick figure B by the way they're looking at B.
Exactly. The idea of tell the story the way you want to, and actually you pretty much nailed what I was going to say anyway, so I got nothing here.
Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be, and the little things can say a lot.
As Brianna has just proven that my method of trying to go overly detailed can be better summed up in a few simple words.
It's okay. In pretty much everything outside of this, I'm usually the one that overthinks and overexplains everything. Anxiety coping mechanism. Whoa!
Hooray! We're all doomed!
So, what about Shane Glines? I see he studied looking through. He does draw a lot of influence and inspiration from pinup artists, but doesn't always take it in the same way. He puts his own spin on things. Has some very, very curvy characters, but not always curvy in the way pinup artists might have made them. I also enjoy some of his male superhero character drawings. Like the Atom, and the way that dude is shaped like a Dorito.
That is actually a nod to another artist that has collaborated with Glines in the past, Bruce Timm. But I figured Timm was not the best intro to bring into this art. Glines is kind of that perfect example of taking a traditional style and tweaking it and making it his own. So Glines is definitely an example of the heyday of animation and cartoons, but at the same time, he does base his work off traditional pinup art. And also, fun fact, folks, teenage me had a particular art style set, and these were kind of the ones that inspired me, so y'all are getting that too. Yeah.
Spreading our obsession around.
Exactly. So some of these skills that Glines, key things from him is Glines has studied the masters, like Gil Elgreen, but he has also taken the Hanna-Barbera approach to create his own style out of that. So instead of doing the traditional like Gil Elgreen calendar pinups, he's taken it and made the kind of combined the art styles together.
It's got more exaggeration, I think. I might be wrong, but his style exaggerates the difference in proportions than you might typically see with at least what I know of traditional pinup style.
You nailed it perfectly, actually.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these figures where the women have like these very thick thighs and their waist is only slightly larger than their ankle. Very much exaggerating the proportions.
Definitely.
These women do not skip leg day.
No. Also, interestingly enough, one of the major projects that Glines had worked on that I'm familiar with is the animated series Batman Beyond.
I saw a drawing of Harley Quinn down here. I didn't know he did Batman Beyond. That's cool. I feel like I've seen bits. Well, actually, let's be real. I've probably mostly just seen memes and stuff from Batman Beyond. But I would be very curious to see how much of his more pinup style did he carry into that, or did he maybe take a different approach?
It's definitely noticeable because, of course, as you said, like the Atom shaped like a Dorito. If you look at Terry in either his like street attire or the bat suit, it definitely has a very angular feel to it.
The men are angular, the women are curvy, with very pointy elbows and very pointy feet.
Yeah, and at the same time, though, he carries that same style that Sanders takes of less detail is still more. Like if you like one of his rough sheets from Batman Beyond, and I will quickly kick the link to you.
In Google Images, I did have Shane Glein's art, but now I added Batman Beyond, and the women do have slightly more realistic proportions. It's not as exaggerated, but you can still see some of those hallmarks of what he does in the pinup style. And yeah, quite a few of the guys are kind of slightly Dorito-shaped. Not as aggressively Dorito-shaped, but still Dorito-shaped.
Dorito adjacent.
I'm gonna keep saying that, then it's making me want Doritos. Sorry, listeners. But hey, you're not suffering this alone.
It is great that you did point out that his style does slightly change when it comes to the Batman Beyond stuff. But the key thing that Glines does take between both is he understands the anatomy, he knows what goes into these characters, and what visual language he needs to make them work.
Yes, and I would say his more exaggerated pinup style wouldn't have fit as well in the tone of Batman. I mean, there might have been a couple of like individual characters, but as a whole, it makes sense that he adjusted his style, still keeping his hallmarks and the hints of things that make his art his, but adjusted it to better fit the tone of Batman.
Exactly.
So he didn't change completely, he just made some adjustments to fit. And just scrolling through all the different repeat sketches of characters and then the same character over and over again, dude did a lot of practice.
Yeah, that is one of the key things you can take away from Glines' work as well. He can consistently practice. Like, you can find his sketchbook series. Like, he's another artist that does remind you that your sketchbook is not supposed to be like this pristine museum piece. It's supposed to be messy. It's supposed to have stuff that works. It's supposed to have stuff that doesn't work. Everything is a way to learn or improve on the skill set, and that's what helps prove that when he goes from like that pinup world to the animation of Batman Beyond, the key thing is his knowledge of anatomy shines through.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to do a lot of bad drawings to figure it out. And I have to tell you, it is incredibly heartening to hear someone say out loud, it's okay if you have drawings in your sketchbook that are bad. Just remembering some of my middle school me attempts at trying to draw people's faces. It was bad. I didn't continue practicing because I was like, I'm bad, this is embarrassing, I'm just gonna stop. But didn't understand that, like, that's something you can improve on. And I still don't know if I'll ever get around to drawing people a whole lot because dragons are cooler than people. Well, yeah, dragons are cooler than people.
As people, I have to agree with that. Or people adjacent, whatever I classify as.
Wasn't it Shane who did a book showing all of his work through the years?
Yes. Shane Glines does actually put out a series of books called the S-Curve.
Oh, that's a cool name. Thank you for listening to An Unexpected Art Lesson, the show where we talk about everything you didn't know about art. Stay tuned next week for further discussion of the truth about drawing and how to get started on your journey as an artist. If you like what we're doing, you can follow us on social media and join the conversation over at An Unexpected Art Lesson on Threads, Blue Sky, and Substack. And you can also support us over on Patreon. Get early access to episodes and other fun things at patreon.com/anunexpectedartlesson.